we're pleased to welcome to the stage Jill Zande.
Well, thank you. I am accustomed to be pushed off the stage. So I'm happy to be pushed onto the stage, and I want to thank you, Wooden Figure, for helping me to get started. And I'd like to start off by sharing a story with you. It's a multi-generational story. I promise you, bear with me, it'll get us back to this whole topic of transforming education. I'd like you to meet my dad, Bob Zande. My dad worked for the Federal Aviation Administration for 42 years. He got his initial training in the Navy. And growing up, just about every summer, I remember he would travel from our hometown in northwestern Pennsylvania to Oklahoma City to get additional training. And I've been told that this photo of my dad was taken after one of those training sessions, sort of the graduation photo, right? And so when I look at this photo, two things come to mind for me. Why is my dad looking so somber? I mean, my dad took his job seriously, but he also knew how to enjoy life and have fun. Now, I can imagine that he's having flashbacks to his childhood in that two-story but still very small schoolhouse, and sitting at his desk as the teacher walked up and down the rows, wrapping the fingers of the students who weren't paying attention with rulers. She was also very famous for throwing chalkboard erasers at the heads of students who were talking amongst themselves. So my dad, just having finished this training session, I envision that's what he was having this flashback about. The other thing I'm struck by is that outfit. I mean, I can't believe my mom let him out of the house looking like that. My mom was always very put together, and here she is. That's my mom, Margie Zande. This is as she's just about to embark on her journey through what they referred to at the time as secretary school. You know, the ladies with their press skirts and their pearls and their stylish glasses sitting in front of typewriters, typing dutifully, eager for praise from the teacher who's at the front giving instructions. So it was the 1950s. There weren't many opportunities available for women at the time, but there was my mom in the workforce and a great role model for her three daughters. Speaking of, there I am, the youngest of those three daughters. The big glasses, the perm, the whole can of Aquanet to hold the curls in place. That dates that photo. It's the 80s. I'm probably in 5th or 6th grade. There I am at my desk with my book in front of me. You can see the student in the desk, the rows next to me, kind of poking me. It must have been a break from instruction, maybe the day the yearbook staff came in to take candid photos. I'm hoping this photo never made the yearbook. I don't remember. I like to think that things got better for me, wrinkles and all. But anyway, there I am at my desk in the row. The rows are facing towards the teacher, the all-knowing, all-powerful teacher who's at the front. She was the expert, the expert. Fast forward to another generation. This is my daughter's 4th grade class last year. That's my daughter Addison in the orange and gray top. Now, in California, 4th grade social studies curriculum focuses on the state's history, which includes learning about California's 21 missions. The culminating project is for students to design and build a replica of a California mission. So the teacher picks the teams, but the students push their desks together, and they brainstorm ideas, and they evaluate those ideas, and they discuss options, and eventually they come to consensus on how they're going to design and build their mission. So they divide and conquer, they bring together materials, and voila, their masterpiece comes together. And you can see the students oohing and eyeing over this creation. Now, I don't want to give you the impression that this particular situation is just unique to 4th grade classrooms learning about California missions. I'd like you to meet Stan Wyman. There's Stan in the middle of his all-girls underwater robotics team, and we'll circle back to underwater robotics in just a little bit. Stan teaches at Bolsa Knolls Middle School in Salinas, California. Now, it's about 25 minutes or so from my daughter's school, but it could be a world away. This is the view outside of Stan's classroom, out of his classroom window, and you might think, what's the big deal? It's a field. Yeah, there's a soccer net somewhere out there and likely a baseball diamond, and there is. But if you look carefully, and I'm sorry this isn't zoomed in, but if you look in the back, you'll see a fence, a metal fence, and beyond that you see a series of white trucks. Those are white trucks of farm workers, of field workers. They're out there in the fields around Stan's school picking strawberries. So Stan's school is in the middle of agricultural fields. I mean, Salinas is the salad bowl capital of the world, and at any time during the year, you can find field workers out there picking a variety of produce, strawberries, lettuce, maybe even broccoli. Now, the demographics of Stan's students reflect this. So Stan teaches science. He also teaches an underwater robotics elective, and that elective fills. He's got 25 to 30 students in that class every year. At the start of the school year, Stan gives them a lecture on basic electricity, on simple circuits, how a circuit works, and then he shows them this clip. And many of you may remember this clip from the 1995 movie Apollo 13. I'm sure some of you weren't even born in 1995, but anyway, Google it. It's a great clip. So this is the scene, if you'll remember, where there's crisis on board the capsule. The carbon dioxide scrubbers are not keeping up with the demand. The mission control team comes to their commander, who's played by Ed Harris, and lays out the situation and basically paints this horrible picture. And Ed Harris famously says, well, I think you're going to have to figure out how to put a square peg in a round hole. So the photos that you see there, that's the lead engineer. He takes this box of parts and pieces and he dumps them on the table in front of his team, and he says, he relays the situation, and he says, okay, we have to figure out how to put this square peg into a hole made for this using only this. Stan does something similar. After this clip, he takes a box of parts and pieces and he dumps them out on the tables of his students, and he challenges them, using the materials available, just the materials available, to create a working switch. Now remember, Stan's given them the fundamentals, right? He's given them the fundamentals, but what he hasn't given them are all of the answers. And Stan, to be honest, he will admit that he doesn't have all the answers. But as he travels around to the teams of students and looks around, he encourages them to work together, to help each other out, to solve that problem and build a working switch. And Stan has seen a lot of interesting creations in his lifetime, some that work and some that don't. Now, every summer we ask Stan to come and share his pearls of wisdom during our week-long teacher workshop. And this is a slide, one of the slides that Stan shares. Must be comfortable with controlled chaos. And if you've gone to Stan's class, you know it's totally controlled chaos. 3 before me, he encourages the students to talk to each other, to collaborate, to help each other out to solve the problem before they come to him. Now, he'll help them over the rough spots. You know, sometimes they end up Googling it, right? How many of us out there, we Google it, right, to find the solutions oftentimes. And be an oracle. Stan could be a motivational speaker. I mean, he really could. His dedication, his devotion to his students, completely unbridled. Now, I don't want to give you the impression that these situations are unique to California, whether the students are building California missions or in Stan's classroom learning about simple switches. This is happening across the country. In Bob Richards' classroom in Michigan, in Teresa Luciano's classroom in Georgia. What is motivating teachers like Stan and Teresa to transform their classrooms and present these really unique learning experiences to their students? Sometimes very challenging learning experiences, more so for the teacher to implement than for the students. Well, the world has changed, and it continues to change. I won't ask you to put up your hand if you recognize that computer in the center of the screen. It will date you just like it's going to date me. That's the computer that I used to write my master's thesis during my graduate school work at LSU. That's it. My phone has more computing power, much more, that's a technical term, much more computing power than that machine there. And at the time, it was considered the state of the art. Right? From the gig economy to the Internet of Things to artificial intelligence to robotics, it's hard to keep up. I mean, who would have imagined that we'd use plastic ink to print objects in 3D? I mean, who could imagine that? I don't even pretend to keep up with the world of 3D printing, where it is now and where it's going to go. I don't even pretend to. It's hard to keep up. Yet, teachers are challenged with preparing students for careers that don't even exist yet. Or if they do exist, they're constantly evolving, they're constantly changing. We need to prepare students that can constantly evolve and change too. Now, I'm not saying we abandon the fundamentals, right? Stan's lecture on simple circuits and basic electricity, that will always be important. And I'm telling you, if you're going to be an engineer, you better know your algebra, trig, your calculus. But we also need to provide students with learning opportunities where they can develop what are often called the soft skills, the 21st century skills. The ability to think creatively, to problem solve, to work together as a team, to manage your time and materials and budgets, to step up to leadership positions, to think globally. That's a lot to put on a teacher's plate. That's a lot to ask a teacher to do. Well, fortunately, there are programs out there that help them to do that. And I'm going to share information about one of those programs very near and dear to my heart. It falls under the broad category of robotics competitions. It is the MATE ROV competition. ROV stands for remotely operated vehicle. It's basically, essentially an underwater robot that's tethered to the surface where it is controlled by students using joysticks or switches. Now, our competition, it has an international championship and a series of 32 regional events that take place across the country and around the world. We challenge our students to design and build an underwater robot to tackle specific tasks. Now, those tasks aren't about throwing a basketball through a hoop or how to fit a square peg into a round hole, although in that situation with NASA, that would have come in very helpful. No, our scenarios, our tasks focus on activities and events in the real world. What's going on in the real world? And they come in the form, they're delivered in the form of an RFP, a request for proposals that the students have to answer to. Right, so we have a very corporate kind of business bent to our competition. And for example, in 2011, after the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, the wellhead blowout, the year after that, we challenged our students to not only design and build an underwater robot, but to build a cap that robot could install on the top of the wellhead to stop the flow of oil, just like real engineers and technicians did. In 2016, when we headed to NASA's Neutral Buoyancy Lab, that's the 6.2 million gallon swimming pool 40 feet deep where NASA trains its astronauts for space missions, we challenged our students to design and build a robot that could travel into outer space to Jupiter's moon Europa, which you may or may not know has a layer of ice, and under that layer of ice there is an ocean waiting to be explored and studied. Now, I know on our own planet here, there is an ocean that is not fully explored and studied. I know that, but that's a conversation for another time. So these missions, they're not simulated out in the open ocean, but rather simulated in swimming pools. In the case of NASA, a really big and really deep swimming pool. But I'm pleased to say that my colleague, Matt Gardner, who's in the audience over there, Matt Gardner is the competition technical manager and self-proclaimed PVC artist. I have seen Matt make ocean bottom seismometers, tidal turbines, wellheads, and yes, even beautiful sea creatures, anemones and decorator crabs, using PVC pipe, pipe cleaners, and of course duct tape, because you can't do anything without duct tape, right? So in addition to the underwater mission tasks, our competition, the MATE competition, also we challenge students, they've got to develop and manage a budget. They have to document their work and submit it in the form of a technical report. They have to prepare and deliver a presentation that talks about the engineering behind their ROV, behind their robot, and how it's going to accomplish those tasks. And they also have to create what we call a marketing or poster display. This is the pizzazz, right? How would they sell their product and their services, their ROV and their operations, if they were going to a conference or a trade show? Now, when you look at our program and look at all of these different programs, you should ask about impact, right? How do we know our program is effective? How can we demonstrate that we are having the impacts that I talked about? Well, I have the data. I have 18 years worth of data, and I could show you slides of data that show how our program is influencing students' education and career choices, how it is engaging them and increasing their interest in STEM, how it is increasing their confidence in applying their knowledge and skills to solving real-world problems. But I'm not going to do that. The best way to demonstrate impact is to hear from the students themselves. And you know this, if you're at a university, if you're at a school, you know your students are the most powerful ambassadors for your program. Now, over the weekend, I just posted the highlight reel from our 2018 international competition. It's filled with wonderful student quotes. It's 9 minutes long. I only got a few minutes left. I'm not going to show the entire video, but I do want to show you one short clip, and it's short. It's a student who I think basically sums it all up. It's quick, so I want you to pay attention. I think it's going to start right.
And I could say for sure that through MATE and through developing ROV, I know where I want to go and I know what I want to do.
I know where I want to go and I know what I want to do. You know, we open the door, we, the collective we. That's students, parents, teachers, mentors, the competition. We open the door and now we're going to get out of his way. And I'm really excited to see where he and all the other young men and women who participate in our program, I'm excited to see where they end up now that they have a vision for where they want to go and what they want to do and what they want to be. Now, if you read my abstract for this talk, I'm sure y'all did, you poured through, you circled, highlighted things. You know that I mentioned a spoiler alert, right? I mentioned that this program would be transforming Eastern Tennessee in 2019. Well, it will be, and it already has. So these are the students from DB Excel and Dobbins Bennett High School. I know they're in the audience. Woohoo! Yes. So they took on the challenge last spring of designing and building an underwater robot to participate in our international competition. That was the first time we had teams from Tennessee compete. But I'll tell you, if Dennis Courtney, the executive director of Streamworks, powered by Eastman, has anything to do with it, there will be many, 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 many more teams from Tennessee in the future. Dennis has taken on the challenge of transforming classrooms in the Tri-Cities area and beyond state borders. He is going to help students get prepared for, are you ready, the first ever inaugural MATE Great Smoky Mountains Regional ROV competition that will take place in Kingsport next spring. Now it gets even better. While Dennis is transforming classrooms, we will be transforming the Aquatic Center when we bring the international competition here next June. We're bringing it here to Kingsport. So, yay! So, you know, mate goes to the mountains, if you will. That'll be our tagline. The lazy river at the Kingsport Aquatic Center, lazy river by day. By June, it will be the South Fork of the Holston River, where, guess what? They have discovered a Civil War era cannon that our students have to design and build an ROV to unearth, remove all the sediment, and bring up intact. And you know that big, wonderful Olympic-sized pool in there? Many of you have probably swam some laps in there or watched your children or grandchildren do that. Imagine that's Boone Lake, and in the background is the dam. And our students are piloting their underwater robots to inspect the dam to ensure public safety, just like the TVA is doing right now. So, hey, it'll be worth it to come out to see this just to see what our self-proclaimed PVC artist comes up with for these mission prompts. Now, I know I'm out of time. I want to circle back to my daughter, talk about my daughter Addison, the love of my life. You would think with the program that mom runs, right, she'd be designing and building underwater robots, or perhaps following in the footsteps of her father and transforming airplanes into flying laboratories that collect data for scientific research. Nope. She likes basketball, she likes volleyball, she's into riding horses, and she's into theater. She takes part in a local children's theater. It's a fantastic program that, like the MATE competition, it's just as much about building character as it is about building skills for the profession. Now, in that theater, there are motivational signs posted up all over the place. This is my favorite. You can do hard things. Now, the instructors there remind the students of that when they're feeling frustrated and discouraged, and I remind my daughter of that when she comes home and is frustrated and discouraged about something else, like homework. And you can imagine, for a soon-to-be 11-year-old, that goes over real well to have her mom remind her she can do hard things. Transforming education, thinking differently, and providing students with opportunities where they can grow, they can troubleshoot and problem solve, and they can think creatively and think like an entrepreneur and work as a team. That's hard. It's no doubt about it. It's a hard thing to do. But we can do hard things. As a teacher, sometimes you just have to let go of your ego, and as Stan said, you have to be comfortable with controlled chaos. As parents, as mentors, as members of the community, we have to be ready to jump in and be supportive and get involved. Tennessee is the volunteer state, right? Right? Yeah, volunteer state, woohoo! All right, well, I'll tell you, as Dennis is transforming classrooms and we are transporting the Kingsport Aquatic Center, we are going to need volunteers to help us to do that. So we'll be putting the call out for help, call out for volunteers, and we hope that you all answer that call, because we'll need you. I'm going to leave you with this. This is a photo from the 2018 MATE International competition. It's my favorite photo. I mean, look at the smiling faces. Look at the colorful shirts, the colorful robots. Look at that diversity. That is the global workplace that we are preparing our students for, or that we should be preparing our students for. And you know what? It's going to take all of us working together to get them there. So with that, I want to thank you for indulging me in telling my story and sharing wonderful old-time family photos with you, right? Unearthed those. And I also want to thank Eastman and the Eastman Foundation for having me here, for inviting me here. It's been such a wonderful, I am honored and I'm humbled to be part of this program. So thank you so much. I wish you all well, and I look forward to seeing you back here. I'll be back here in Kingsport next June. Take care.